In Lesson 1, we're talking about identifying and finding parallel lines and their transversals. Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. These angles are also known as linear pairs because they form a straight line put together. What are some examples of linear pairs? Later on, we're going to look at an example of parallel lines with a transversal T. In that example, linear pair examples are angles 1 and 3 and angles 5 and 7. Now, two lines are parallel if they lie in the same plane and never intersect. If lines M and N are parallel, rewrite M parallel N. Transversal is a line that intersects two or more lines at 2 points. Exterior angles are outside the parallel lines. Exterior angles in this situation are 1, 2, 7, and 8 on the outside of the two intersections. Interior angles, kind of the opposite of exterior, is going to be inside the parallel lines. So they're going to be in between the parallel lines. The examples in this scenario are angles 3, 4, 5, and 6. Corresponding angles are angles that have a corresponding or equivalent positions on the parallel lines. When a transversal crosses two parallel lines, the corresponding angles are congruent. So now we're going to identify using some of this vocabulary. If we're looking at angle 1 and we want to find the corresponding angle created when the transversal T intersected parallel lines N and M, what is the congruent angle? Well, angle 5 is in the same position of this intersection TM as the position of angle 1 where T and N intersect. Similar with angle 2 and angle 6, same position. Angle 3 and angle 7 are congruent because they are in the same position. And angle 4 and angle 5 are congruent because of the position. Now, vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles that share the same vertex or corner. Vertical angles are congruent. Identify the pairs of vertical angles when transversal T intersected parallel lines N and M. Pause the video and try these 4. You should have gotten something similar to these. Remember, vertical is having to share a corner or a vertex to be congruent. Interior angles, consecutive interior angles that are on the same of the transversal and are inside the parallel lines. Consecutive interior angles are supplementary and add up to 180 degrees. If the two lines that the transversal crosses are parallel. If L and M are parallel, identify the consecutive interior angles and their sum. What is the consecutive interior angles corresponding to angle 3? We want to look at angle 3 and what is our interior angle corresponding to? It is angle 5. So we want to go to the other intersection and look at the interior corresponding angle. That's going to add up with our angle 3 to give us 180. Now we want to look at 4. We want to look at 4 and go to the other intersection and look for the interior angle that is going to add up with our angle 4 to give us 180 degrees. Well, it's going to be angle 6. Now, consecutive exterior angles is similar. Angles that are on the same of the transversal and are outside the parallel lines. Consecutive exterior angles are supplementary as well, which again adds up to 180 degrees if the two lines the transversals cross are parallel. If L and M are parallel, identify the consecutive exterior angles and their sum. What is the consecutive exterior angle corresponding to 1? Again, we want to start where angle 1 is and look to the opposite intersection. And we want the exterior angle that is going to add up to angle 1 to give us 180 degrees. Well, this is 7. Now we're going to look at angle 2. Angle 2 is right here. Well, if you go to the other intersection, the angle that is going to equal angle 2 is going to be 6. But we want the angle that is going to add with angle 2 to give us 180 degrees. And that is going to be angle 8. Alternate angles. Alternate interior angles, angles that are on the inside of the transversal and are opposite side of the parallel lines. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Alternate exterior angles that are on the outside of the transversal are the opposite side of the parallel lines. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. What type of relationship exists between angle 3 and angle 6? Well, 3 is interior of the first intersection, and 6 is also interior on this one. So we're going to go with alternate interior angles because they change of their position of the intersection. Name the other pair of alternate interior angles. Well, you saw how these related to each other. We're going to go with 4 and 5. Now we're going to see what relationship is in between angle 1 and angle 8. Well, both angle 1 and angle 8 are exterior and they alternate whether they are on the left side or the right side of the transversal T. So it's officially alternate exterior angles. Other pair is 2 and 7. Again, 2 and 7 angles are on the exterior side of the parallel lines, and they alternate the sides of the transversal T. Identify each set of angles below as corresponding vertical, alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior, or consecutive exterior. What does that tell you about the pair of angles? For the first one, we see that we are on the same side of the transversal, so we're not going to be alternate. And we're both of these angles are on the interior of the parallel lines. So it's going to be consecutive interior angles. With these, if you add them up, they're going to equal 180 degrees. So they are supplementary. For number 2, they are alternating which side they are on of the transversal. One is interior and one is exterior. So they're going to be vertical. They're vertical of each other in between the one parallel line and the transversal. We know that these are congruent because they are going to be the same degree. Number 3, x and y are alternating sides of the transversal. One is exterior, the other is also exterior, so it's going to be alternating exterior. Because we know it's alternate exterior, they are congruent. Pause the video and you try these 3. You should have gotten something similar to these. Now, for 7, 8, and 9, we are trying to find out what the value of x is. Here, we see that we have that these are going to add up to give us 180 degrees. So we're going to add 18x minus 6 plus 8x plus 4 equals 180 degrees. And we're going to solve for x, and we're going to get x equals 7. For number 8, we see that these are going to be vertical angles, so they're going to be congruent, and we're going to set them equal to each other. So we're going to have x plus 103 equals 95, which gives us negative 8. Make sure you realize if you do have a problem like this, you do not have a negative measurement for the whole angle. X can equal a negative number, but the whole thing for the angle itself cannot be negative. For this one, this is similar to number 7. We're going to set it equal to 180 degrees by adding them together. We're going to solve for x to give us negative 4. Pause the video and try 10, 11, and 12. 10, 11, and 12 took it one step further, and you needed to find what x was, but you also needed to find what the whole thing equaled. So for this one, you had to set 10x plus 10 equals 11x plus 1, and then you had to figure out what the whole thing equaled once you substituted x in, which you should have gotten 9 for x, and the whole thing you should have gotten 100 degrees. 11 and 12 were similar.